In an introduction, the poetess Kamala thus uses carefully chosen metaphors and images to depict her emotional state. Being a true confessional poem of the poetess, she points out signs of restriction imposed on her by an orthodox society. The poem concerns with the issues of women identity and the relation between men and women. It talks about a society that judges a woman's thoughts, actions, behavior, her entire life, how she should act or react to certain situations, and how to suppress her desire and expressions. The text of Kamala thus an introduction goes, I don't know politics, but I know the names of those in power and can repeat them like days of week or names of months, beginning with Nehru. I am Indian, very brown. Born in Malabar, I speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. Don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue. Why not leave me alone? Critics, friends, visiting cousins, every one of you. Why not let me speak in any language I like? The language I speak becomes mine. Its distortions, its queerness, all mine. Mine alone. It is half English, half Indian. Funny perhaps, but it is honest. It is as human as I am human. Don't you see? It voices my joy, my longings, my hopes, and it is useful for me as cawing is to crows or roaring to the lions. It is human speech, the speech of the mind, and that is here and not there. A mind that sees and hears and is aware. Not the deaf, blind speech of trees in storms or monsoon clouds of the rain or the incoherent mutterings of the blazing funeral pyre. I was child, and later they told me I grew, for I became tall, my limbs swelled, and 1 or 2 places sprouted hair. When I asked for love, not knowing what else to ask for, he drew a youth of 16 into the bedroom and closed the door. He did not beat me, but my sad woman body felt so beaten. The weight of my breasts and womb crushed me. I shrank pitifully. Then I wore a shirt and my brother's trousers, cut my hair short and ignored my womanliness. Dress in saris, be girl, be wife, they said. Be embroiderer, be cook, be a quarrel with servants. Fit in, oh, belong, cried the categorizers. Don't sit on walls and peep in through our laced, draped windows. Be army, or be Kamala, or better still, be Madhavikuti. It is time to choose a name, a role. Don't play pretending games. Don't play at schizophrenia or be a nympho. Don't cry embarrassingly loud when jilted in love. I met a man, loved him. Call him not by any name. He is every man who wants a woman, just as I am every woman who seeks love. In him the hungry haste of rivers, in me the ocean's tireless waiting. Who are you? I ask each and every one. The answer is, it is I. Anywhere and everywhere I see the one who calls himself I. In the world he is tightly packed like the sword in its sheath. It is I who drink lonely drinks at 12 midnight in hotels of strange towns. It is I who love. It is I who make love and then feel shame. It is I who lie dying with a rattle in my throat. I am sinner, I am saint. I am the beloved and the betrayed. I have no joys which are not yours, no aches which are not yours. I too call myself I. Kamala thus uses disjoints in an introduction. A disjoint is how a poet or a poetess jumps from one topic to another abruptly with no connections at all. Here she begins by telling her disinterest in politics and abruptly introduces herself as an Indian. She then goes on to talk about how expressing herself is a necessity. She urges society to leave her alone and let her use whichever language she wanted. Then she talks about being pressured into marriage and talks about being pressured into getting married because she has reached her puberty. Society judged her by her physical development and not her mental or emotional development. She was compelled to fit in as a woman, a mother and a wife. She was taught to be a giver and not expect anything in return, not be a receiver of anything. Finally, she proclaims that she is also an individual in this world with all her good sides and her bad sides, with all her limitations. She also addresses herself as I, and just like anybody else in this world, irrespective of gender or race, she also has an individual identity. Kamala Das was born in Punayurkulam in South Indian city of Malabar. She got married at the age of 15 and had 3 sons. She is recognized as one of the leading Indian poets in English literature. Her poetry is characterized by the presence of stark images that challenge many conventions generally considered to be the part of the Indian society. Her verses openly speak about the intimate sexuality and also domestic oppression of women. We also see her criticism of patriarchal form of Indian society. An Introduction is a confessional poem where Kamala Das openly shares her experience of being trapped in an Indian society, Indian patriarchal society, and how she feels suffocated in a society that deprives her of all the personal freedom and social freedom and deprives her totally of her being an individual. She, as an Indian woman, is required to adjust herself to the different situation that society brings. Right from the opening lines, we see that the Indian mentality of rejecting the idea of powerful women or women leaders. Kamala Das writes, "I don't know politics, but I know the names of those in power." She knows and has learned a considerable amount of knowledge about the Indian polity, but she herself is not allowed beyond that. She is not allowed to dream about being powerful herself. She introduces herself as a brown Indian woman born in Malabar who spoke 3 languages, wrote in 2, and dreamed in 1 language, and how society criticized her for writing in English, which is not her mother tongue. And her near and dear ones and her critics raised objection of her writing in English language. She urged them to leave her alone and let her use any language that she felt comfortable with, because with all the queer pronunciations and inaccurate arrangement of words, it is all her expression. It is all about her longings and her hopes. She wishes that people around her will not take away her freedom of being able to express herself, whether it is in English or any other language that she wanted. In spite of all the imperfections in her speech and language, it is all hers, her thoughts, her feelings, and hers alone. And it is the honest expression of a human. She asks the society not to judge her attempt to express herself in her broken English, because it is useful and important to her, just as cawing is for the crows and roaring is for the lion. It is different from the meaningless sounds of trees during the storm, or the sound of the rain during the monsoon, or the sound of the blazing fire on a funeral pyre. Saying so, she jumps into her talking about her marriage life. As she reached puberty, she became tall, her breasts developed, and her pubic hair sprouted, and she was suddenly called a woman from a child, and she was told that she was not a child anymore, and then she was married off to a 16-year-old boy. She expressed her sexual experience as unpleasant. She felt that the pressure of being a woman in the Indian society was weighing her down and crushed her individuality. When she says that the weight of her breast and the weight of her womb bent her down, she means that being a woman crushed her. Because she had restrictions after restrictions, she wanted to turn away from being a woman by imitating her brother and wearing his clothes and giving herself a short hair, but was compelled to fit in as a girl, a wife, to wear sari and learn household chores and to learn how to quarrel with the servants. It is all about what she should do and what she should not do. She should not try something that other women do not do. She was not supposed to act like a man. She should fit into the category of being called a girl, a wife, a perfect woman. She was not supposed to be curious about what people were talking about, what people were discussing. Society says don't sit on the walls and peep through lace-draped windows. Kamala Das was also known by her pen name Madhavikuti, or she had a nickname called Ami, and her parents and relatives in society had an idea of how she should grow up. So they insisted her to act and behave like the Kamala that they imagined, or the Ami that they expected, or the Madhavikuti that should grow up as an Indian woman. The kind that was considered fit for the Indian society through their perspective. She was not supposed to dream about freedom and imagine about a better life, because there was schizophrenia, which was a mental sickness. Desiring for romantic love and ideal love is wrong. According to the society, such desires make her a nympho, a sexually immoral kind of girl. Furthermore, society tells her not to cry out and voice out her feelings in love, because it is embarrassing to be very expressive of a woman. Then she goes on to talk about falling in love with a man. He was like any other man. The only thing that he wanted was a woman. And she, being a woman, the only thing that she wanted was love. He was like a hasty, hungry river running through, and she was like the ocean, tirelessly, patiently waiting. According to her, what a woman wanted was love and affection, care and protection. But what a man wanted was mere satisfaction of his hungry lust from a woman. The poetess hints on the society's mentality of a woman's role in playing a submissive, patient giver to her man, and the right of the man to ignore the emotional needs of a woman. In a society where only male members are counted and where struggle of men is taken into consideration, where only the burden of a man is recognized, the poetess Kamala Das raises her voice, saying that she too feels loneliness, pain and shame. She loves and lived through sufferings, and is bound to die without being heard, as though she had a rattle in her throat, just because her voice of individual freedom and identity is subdued by social pressure and expectations. She is altogether a sinner as well as a saint. She is loved in many ways and yet betrayed in many ways. She has received joy as well as pain in her life. She experienced everything that any existing human has ever experienced, and ends her poem saying that I too call myself I, which encompasses her desire to be treated like a valued human being in a male-dominated society. When we are asked who we are or who are you, every one of us, wherever we existed, we say it is I. We all call ourselves I. And no matter which part of the community or society we belong to, whether man or woman, we are bounded by social norms or expectations of the society like a sword tightly packed in its sheath. We have to rigidly meet social expectations. The poetess expresses how people in Indian society struggle to define their identity or fight for their individuality. In her lines, I too call myself I, she explains how she also goes through the same desire to be known by her identity and individuality in the society, where social pressure tries to push back every individual into the replicas of their own expectation. That was all about an introduction by Kamala Das, a fight for her individual identity, and the depiction of the issues of women fighting for a place in a patriarchal society, and how social pressure and social conventions push people into society's own expectation by crushing the dreams of individuals and by crushing the identity of the citizens in the community. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.